by exception. In other words, the CPI is not about doing a primary research whereby you go to an individual and ask him what do you think about corruption and give you a scoring of survey results and so on. So you're not assessing individuals' tax fraud is not inside. Illicit financial flows. So money laundering is not inside. Now we always get a lot of questions why money laundering is not part of the. There is another explanation for this that when money, there is a lot of can see towards the right side, you see the dots, yellow dots, and they obviously score high on the CPI. And then there is a correlation with environmental health scores. Now, the source of this is ND gain. And you can see countries who are doing well on the environmental health tend to also score well on the CPI. Okay, so that's the correlation. So that is the reason why if our country wants to move forward, everything has to move in tandem. You cannot solve the corruption problem just by arresting people. You can't say that this responsibility is solely on the shoulder of MACC. Yes, MACC is an enforcement body. Take care of that. But it can't happen only by arresting people to solve this problem. It has to be a collective action from everyone. So that is just to give you an idea on the correlation. Okay, now comes the 2024 results. So we'll start with the global results first. So I will show you the first 10 countries. So here we have the first top 10 countries. And I want to congratulate Denmark. I think we have our representative from the Danish embassy. Congratulations. Denmark has done very well. And every few years, you have Denmark or Finland, Singapore. Singapore has never, my knowledge, Singapore has never become #1 yet. But maybe one day they will. But today they are already #3 compared to, I think New Zealand last year. There was one, but New Zealand has dropped. So you can see it can be very competitive even at the top. Right? So you can see that countries that are progressing rapidly are those countries at the lowest score. But once you reach a high score, it's not easy to maintain. Just like businesses, when you have market share, high market share, it's easy from 0 to get 30% market share. The moment you get 50% market share, that means half of the market size of the market you are in control. For you to maintain is very difficult because competition will come and try to keep your share. So the same thing here, when you are in the top, #1, #2, #3, it becomes very tough to maintain your position because constantly you got to find ways to improve yourself. So these are the countries. Asia Pacific, we have Singapore and New Zealand. Asia Pacific, all right? And then followed by other countries here, okay? All right, now in terms of the bottom 10 countries, we have Sudan, Nicaragua, Equatorial Guinea, Libya, Yemen, Syria, Venezuela, Somalia, and South Sudan. Now, many of you will know from the previous data that we shared with you that they are the same, similar countries that are kids. Now, what does it tell us? Basically, it tells us when you have a situation of war, rebels fighting with each other, civil war, and there is no peace, economy is not growing at all, that leads to corruption. Okay, so that is where countries like this, the bottom 10, there's nothing they can do. They remain in this position, right? So let's move to Malaysia. Okay, so this is what we're all looking for. All right, so for some of you who have come for the first time, in the CPI scoring, it's from 0 to 100. So if you're closer to 100, it's considered clean. And if you're closer to 0, then you're considered highly corrupt. Okay, so that's how they have scaled. So in Malaysia's case, let's look at 2021. Our score was 48. Remember, this is not ranking, this is scoring. Okay. The reason why ranking is also important, you can have the ranking, but sometimes when some countries pull out, and why they pull out? Because the requirement for the CPI is minimum 3 surveys. Remember, I mentioned 13 surveys. Some countries can have 9, some countries can have 8 or 6 or 4, but the threshold is 3. If you don't have 3 surveys, then you will not be included in CPI. So that's the reason why sometimes some countries come out. And then what will happen is some countries' rank will go up. So it's not necessary your score is good. So we focus on the score. Then what happened in 2022, we went down again. Okay, this is just to recap. So that was not good at that time. And then in 2023, our score was 50 points. Okay, 50 points. So now you'll be looking for the 2024 results. So I'll show you now, which you all are waiting for. Everybody kept asking me, say, can you tell me the score? Now it's time. Okay. Okay, so here we are, 50. So, okay, we maintain, okay? We maintain, all right? So, of course, challenges, not only for us, DI, but I think even for those who are involved in the special task force. We'll later discuss about that special task force who are involved in the CPI. It's also a challenge because the government the Prime Minister has put a vision to be in the top 25 rank, not score. So when you want to be top 25, you need to score something like about 68 points to 70 points. So now we are 50 points. So you need to go up by about 18 points. So if you talk about 10 years, it's about 1.8, but now we don't have 10 years. So we got to work very, very hard in the next few years, right? So let's do some analysis of this score. Okay, so as I said, our rank and our score maintained like the previous year. Score 50, rank 57. In 2023 was the same. Score 50, rank 57, right? Okay, so this slide actually shows you all the countries involved in terms of score and their rank. So as I said, if Malaysia wants to be in the top 25, you must fall within the first column. So if your score needs to be 67, 68, we need to be close to like UAE, United Arab Emirates, or Austria or something like that. That's where we need to come. Okay. All right. And we look at Asia Pacific. Average score is 44, which is not good. It's below 50. And if you look on the right side, we have Singapore topping the list in Asia Pacific, followed by New Zealand, Australia, Hong Kong, and so on. And Malaysia is on the 10th position in Asia Pacific. Okay, so we got to improve and be close to like what Taiwan is doing. Yeah, about 60. Now, this is the figure that I want to show you that all of you would be interested to see. Malaysia had 9 surveys. These are the 9 surveys. So you have Bertelsmann, EIU, Economic Intelligence Unit, Global Insight, IMD, PRS, World Economic Forum, World Justice Project, a variety of others. Now, please don't get worried or excited because we jumped by 5 points or 4 points, or we went down by 9 points. Now, there's one thing I have to highlight here, number 7. Number 7, the World Economic Forum Executive Opinion Survey reported to TI that they changed their methodology in 2024. The World Economic Forum Survey, they reported to TI that they changed the methodology. Now, when they changed the methodology, TI also had to modify the methodology in terms of calculation. But they cannot do only for number 7, they have to do for all of them. So when they do for all, you actually don't compare with the previous year. So I just show it because you will ask, hey, what was the score last year? So that's why we show you the results. So don't get worried or don't get excited that I went up by 5 points or I went down by 9 points. We can use 2024 as a benchmark. Okay, as a benchmark. Okay. Now, of course, the concern will be number 4, why we went down by 9 points. But very fortunate for Malaysia, other sides, they have improved. So somehow we managed to maintain. Okay, later we'll talk about number 4. Because interesting, IMD Competitiveness Center World Competitiveness Yearbook, EOS, Executive Opinion Research. Out of all these 9, this is the only survey that has a partnership with Malaysian, one of the organizations, which is MPC, Malaysian Productivity Council. They have a partnership. So hopefully we can work together and see how this can be improved. Because many of the respondents are business people. All the business community are actually. So we want to know what is their concern. Why the business community. We'll talk about that in a while. So we'll come back to this screen in case you have any questions. So this is how we scored 50 points. Okay, among ASEAN countries, Singapore is the top. Rank-wise 3, score-wise 84. They have improved by 1 point. Malaysia, we are maintained 50 points. Vietnam dropped, but Indonesia has gone up, okay, by 3 points, and so on. Okay, so this is among ASEAN countries. The rest of the countries like Laos, Cambodia, they are far behind. Okay. Now, this chart you will see every year. Of course, you will, because it's done in a curve. You see between 50 to the next 50 is like a curve, but actually we have maintained scores. Now you can see from this chart here that Malaysia has been struggling to, have its head above waters. Okay, I mean, if you say passing mark is 50, cukup makan. That means we just, crossing. And that's not what we want. If you aim for 68, massive reforms, massive changes has to happen, right? So we'll talk about that in a short while. So we hope in the years to come, we will be able to cross the 55 and 60 threshold. Okay, so remember just now I showed you this chart. So you can see that's where we are. Okay, at the score of 50, and we have managed to get the data from environmental health through ND game. So that's somewhere where we stand. So our aim is actually to move up the curve on the environmental health chart. Okay, this is Asia Pacific. Again, as a summary, you can see the top 3 countries are Singapore, New Zealand, Australia. And the other 3, Afghanistan, Myanmar, North Korea. And then based on the statistically significant changes, some countries have gone up. Of course, the baseline is written there. Some are 2018, 2015, and so on. And you can see when you have a rapid jump in the score, improvement, normally you start from a lower base. It'll be easier to go up. But when you're at a higher base, it's quite difficult to maintain. So that is what this chart is showing. Okay, now, possible reasons for Malaysia's stagnant score. Now, this is important. This is where we need to have a good discussion. What are the possible reasons for Malaysia's stagnant score? Now, first of all, businesses still feel corruption is a problem in the public sector. Now, remember just now I showed you about the IMD survey that dropped 9 points. In all fairness, because the methodology has changed, but I think that is also a wake-up call to find out from businesses what is exactly the problem. So the organization in Malaysia is MPC, Malaysian Productivity Council. They engage with a lot of chambers of commerce, Indian Chamber of Commerce, Chinese Chamber of Commerce, Malay Chambers of Commerce, including Sabah, Sarawak, and so on. We need to find out why businesses have this. Right? I mean, I want to give you my own personal experience talking to a lot of people. Simple question, and this question I take also from the IMD's question survey. The question is very simple. Score between 1 to 6, bribery exists or don't exist. So if it exists, your score will be 1 or 2. If it doesn't exist, you will put 5 or 6. Now, generally, when I just sit casual, just sitting coffee and having them, just give me a score, please, 1 to 6. Bribery exists or not? You're a businessman. Almost all of them score 1 and 2, 1, which means it's there, So this is one of the big thing that I think we should focus and so on. Now, the other thing is private sector. We all have a corporate liability. Malaysia has a corporate liability act, section 17 capital. Okay, now TI does a lot of engagement with, we get funding to do a lot of engagement with companies and private sector and so on. The sense we feel today, people don't take it seriously. We have what we call adequate procedures. A lot of organizations, some organizations like SMEs, they say that they don't even know that there is an act. So there is one concern. Now, another concern we have is, many of you will know, there are 2 cases. One is the Pristine offshore case in 2021 and a Hydroshoppy 2023 case. We didn't hear much about this. We know some people were charged, but between 2021 and 2025 is a long time. So we do not know what exactly happened in this case. So we hope that this thing can be addressed. In my view, this is one of the major problems that is stopping us and not allowing us to score. Because why? Who are the respondents of this survey? Business people. So if they don't give us high score, we won't be able to score. Okay. Now, the second thing, institutional reforms has been slow despite the Madani government's strong emphasis on good governance and institutional reforms. Every other day when the Prime Minister goes around for any event, he will emphasize on this, which is good. But the reforms must come parallel to all these things. Later, I'll tell you what are the reforms we're talking about. Now, the other thing is the revised jail sentences and fines after conviction of the highest court on high-profile cases. You all know what I'm talking about. And that creates a perception of political interference in the judiciary. And later I'll talk about judiciary, why judiciary is so important. Okay, I'll talk about that. And similarly, high number of DNAA, discharge not amounting to acquittal cases given for high-profile cases, creates again an impression that political interference either in the judiciary or even in the prosecution. Maybe there is not, but that is perception. Remember I told you, this whole exercise of CPI is about perception. So these are the possible reasons why we just cannot move or we are struggling. Okay. Now, we also must be fair to the government. There are positive developments, especially over the last terms. It's not that they never did anything. They did some things. So let's see what they have done. Now, first of all, I want to talk about the Chief Secretary to the government, KSM. In Malay, it's called KSM, because it was Senegal. He took the responsibility to champion the NACS and lead the CPI vision of being in the top 25 in ranking by the year 2033. Why I specifically put this top of the list? Because in the last few years, some of you have been coming for this session, you will always know, we always have made recommendation, even in the NACP, asking the KSN to take the lead. Because you need a champion. You want to implement something in the public sector. Who else can we call upon for help other than the KSN or Chief Secretary to the government? But no action was taken. But this KSN took upon himself and he's leading and championing this thing. So this is very good. Now, the second thing is in 2023, the government enacted the Public Finance and Fiscal Responsibility Act 2023. Now, this act, although I don't know why this was not properly communicated or talked about, but this puts a lot of control on the finance minister. He cannot simply borrow money, and there is a ceiling on the debt to GDP. There is a lot of controls being put in, and he has to answer to Parliament. All right, so this is something that they have done. And then the other thing, as you all know, as NACS is a continuation of where they stopped the NACP, and they have launched it in June 2024. And just I think last week. Last week the dashboard actually was sorry. A dashboard was actually launched by BPGN, and of course TI has its own dashboard. We also monitor, but this is from the public domain. Now you can see out of the 60 initiatives or sub-strategies, I would say, in the NACS, they have completed 5. Okay, this involves various government agencies and so on. So they have about achieved 8.3%. Given that they only launched it in June, okay, not bad, a good achievement for about 8.3%. And these are the various agencies and so on. And that shows what they have done. The green shows that they have completed. Selesai means completed. Dalam tindakan means under action. Okay. Now, as far as MACC and the BPGN is concerned, they are like a secretariat consolidating all this information. Hey, have you done this? Okay, you have done. Your report done. Huh? Okay. We put it in the dashboard. But you cannot stop there. And this is where I need help from the media. Like, for example, if you see the first one, KPM, Kementerian Pendidikan Malaysia, Ministry of Education. I don't know. As far as I'm concerned, I've checked their website, nothing mentioned about what they have done. So this is where it's very important. Media play a role. You have to ask this minister whenever you have the opportunity. Hey, you have done quite a bit of this. Can you tell us a little bit more what you have done? We need that kind of commitment from every agency, every ministry. This challenge or this dream that the Prime Minister has given us 25 cannot happen with 1 person, 2 person or MACC. It's a collective action. All of us have to work together. So that is why this ministry is an agency. We need to be careful because tomorrow you will see maybe 2 years, 3 years down the road, the same dashboard is displayed. You may see 90% will be colored green. What it means? Done, no? But on the ground, you find CPI cannot go up. Score doesn't go up, or even go up a little bit. Why? Because at the root level, things have not changed. So we got to be careful about this. We shouldn't fall in the trap just because of this dashboard. Things are perfect. Things must be solid on the ground. And I hope the Jabatan Audit Negara, Auditor General, during their audit process, they will capture these things as well. Since you said you have done 4 right or 3 right in Pendidikan, can you tell us please what you have done? Show me what you have done. We need evidence. Then only you can start moving. If not, it will be a challenge. Huh? Okay, so let's move on. The other positive development is a special task force has been formed. The Prime Minister and with the KSN, they have formed a special task force to propel Malaysia to the top 25 in the CPI index by 2033. Right, so there are several of us involved and so on. And that is another challenge because a lot of government agencies are involved. For the first time, nobody has talked about CPI in the past. So government agencies are involved. JPA is involved, EI is involved, MITI is involved, and so on. But let me just tell you, it's never an easy task. Because I'm also in the task force, I do a lot of engagement with the focus groups and so on. It has been a challenge. But we are trying to get there, and so on. The other thing, thing that the government has done is the amendment of the Audit Act 1957. It has been passed in Parliament in July 2024, which now empowers the Auditor General to even audit GLCs. As far as there is money trail, even NGO for that matter, if let's say an NGO, let's say TI gets funds from the government, the Auditor General can audit TI. Okay, so that kind of power has been given to the Auditor General. Amendment to the Trustees Act to prevent malpractices by trust entities. Amendment to the Companies Act to include mandatory disclosure of beneficial ownership. So the amendment to that on the Companies Act. So ultimate owner, they have to disclose. But the only setback is the public, it's not about in the public register. So today the enforcement agencies have access to it, or the ultimate owner themselves or the company secretary will have that information. Public cannot access. By Indonesia, there is public registry. right? So we hope as an ongoing thing in future, the registry should be made public so that there is more transparency. Now, the other interesting thing, government has implemented something called DEEP. Even I had to do some reading to find out what is this DEEP all about. Okay, DEEP merit performance evaluation system for civil servants starting from this year, 2025. I was told they are all ready to implement to transform the civil service to a high performance culture organization. So this is good. I understand that it starts from 100 points. If you are slacking, the points will drop, and if you improve, the points will go up, and so on. So we hope all these little things will help, especially in the public sector, to improve our CPI indirectly. Now, some of the recommendations that we want to put forward. First thing is accelerate the legal and institutional reforms. Now, you all have been hearing from me, Whistleblower Protection Act, how many times I have said this. Media also have given a lot of statements. Not only me, even C4, Rasuah Busters, Ideas, everybody had talked about this. And for us, myself and my colleague, Mr. Paikiat, we have been involved from 2019 in this. It has taken us 6 years. And you need amendment, not a new act, just amendment only. So I hope this time the government said it will be, they promised us in March. March means next month, early next month. Hopefully it will be done. Because these are some of the challenges that we have that, when you talk about reforms, you say so many consultation after consultation, but not done. Okay, so I hope this will happen. Now, the second thing, the promise given was Freedom of Information Bill, FOI, for greater transparency. We were told that July they will table this, right? So we hope and pray that this will happen. The other thing, the Ombudsman Bill. You see, currently you have so many different enforcement bodies, and what we want is a central body, central agency to receive complaints and for them to take action. So I was told that this is still in the pipeline, and I'm sure. The other thing is Parliamentary Services Act. Okay, to separate between the executive, legislature, and the judiciary. Now, years ago, before the 90s, we did have this provision, and Parliament had its own budget. They managed everything themselves. Around 1990s, during Tun Mahathir's first cycle, this was removed and was brought to the Prime Minister's department. So now the budget is all controlled by the Prime Minister's department. And so we want to give that power back to the legislature, right? So we hope this will be tabled. And I say we hope this table, it's already in the works. So many of us were involved, consultation, discussion, giving inputs and so on, but we have not seen. Now, the other thing is political financing bill. TI came up with the first book 15 years ago. 15 years have passed. And today, other colleagues of ours, Ideas and all that, they are also championing this. Per se, another one championing this and so on. And even from what I can remember, 2 or 3 years ago, we even drafted a bill for the government to make your life easy. We do for you. With the Bar Council, of course. So we have not heard anything. Now, political financing bill is very important because, as what one of the former MACC commissioners said, Tan Sri Abu, that political corruption is the mother of all corruption. Okay, so in election time, under the Election Offences Act, there's a limit for state assemblymen, how much they can spend, MPs, how much they can spend. But the reality is something else. Printing the flags itself, we don't know how much it costs. And nobody audits this. So we need to have this political financing bill to regulate political funding. Because we all understand, to run a party, you need money. To run elections, you need money. But let's regulate it. If not, it won't be a level playing field. Some get a whole lot of money and then they abuse the system. So now, the other thing is the nexus between politicians, business, and patronage continues to be a gray area. This is one of the problems. Until today, we cannot see a light at the end of the tunnel for the political financing. Now, the other reforms, we're talking about procurement bills. In 2019, when the Pakatan Harapan government came into power, they promised to table the public procurement bill. How many years now? Coming for 6 years. It's not that. So the idea of the public procurement bill is to have transparency, good competition, efficiency in the public procurement system. Now, this one of late has become very important, although I know there is a lot of pushback from some of them, but the separation of power is something that we are pushing for it between the AG and the public prosecutor. At the moment, it's the same person doing it, because the AG is advising the government, and that is for the government's interest, whereas the public prosecutor is for public interest. So these two posts has to be separated. Of course, to be fair to the government, it's not that they are not doing anything. They are looking and studying they have been to Canada, they have been to Australia. I was told that the last cycle is to go to UK and find out how they do it. And we hope something will happen. So these are the slew of reforms, institutional or legal and institutional reforms the government needs to do. Now, there must be political will to push for transparency and accountability and reforms. Now, we need to see greater transparency when it comes to some of the failed projects. You all know about the LCS case, Littoral Combat Ship. Started with 9 billion project with ships. Now we know the cost has escalated to 11 billion, but we are not going to get 6 ships. We're only going to get 5 ships. But even then, while this thing is happening, very little information is coming up. What we know is the Treasury and the MOD, Malaysia Ministry of Defence, KSUs, they are always in consultation. But I think it's very important. These are all taxpayers' money. So you can, explain to the Rakyat what is happening. Okay, where I'm not talking about the national security issues that you need to expose. We understand that. But we know that 5 ships are coming. Give us some progress. How much, where's the cost like? What is wrong? You say now the cost escalate to 11 billion. Where are we now? Year to date, how much you have spent? Have you reached 6 billion? Have you reached 7 billion? So these are issues. And when the ship is coming, I know the minister made some announcement, the first ship is coming in 26 or 27, but that's all legal information we have. Now, the other thing we also pushing for is gradually political appointments in government-linked agencies should be phased out. Our civil servants are very experienced. They should be given the first opportunity to lead the government-linked agencies instead of politicians. Now, the Auditor General's report, every year we see the Auditor General's report. Sometimes there are a lot of adverse reports, but accountability is not there for non-compliance and wrongdoings. People just get away with it. Now, the other thing is asset declaration. To compel public officials and member of parliament to declare their assets. From what I understand, after this government came into power, now they're still debating on a format, how to declare their assets. I mean, let's get this going with, if you want to be transparent, you want to have a disclosure, I think the various agencies have already done all their work. So I hope the government quickly implement this and compel all politicians, MPs, to declare their assets. Now, the other thing is integrity pact. Civil servants will definitely understand what is integrity pact. Now, we have been engaging with the Ministry of Finance for many years, but nothing has come out of it. What we are saying is for mega projects, integrity pact should have a tripartite arrangement whereby you have the bidders, you have the contracting bidders and the procurement agency, and the third one is the independent oversight. Now, these are mega projects. I'm like the Littoral Combat Ship. That is one of them. That is the mega project. Okay. So we don't have that, and we are proposing to the Ministry of Finance to please look at this. And the last one is about mega projects. We are recommending, and we have recommended before, mega projects require parliamentary approval with supporting documents to show you the advanced planning, needs analysis, cost benefit reports. A good example I can give you is high-speed rail. High-speed rail, Kuala Lumpur, Singapore rail. It's a very costly project. We don't want to do because somebody wants to have that project. Because at the end of the day, I think there are some calculations done. The ticket price from KL to Singapore could be 3 times more than Firefly. So how the project going to be viable? So sometimes this is why very important mega projects should be thrown into parliament. Show whoever wants a project, show me your cost benefit analysis and so. At the end of the day, we're talking about protecting taxpayers' money. Okay, so coming to the end, those are the recommendations. We should never forget this vision of the Prime Minister who has given. We want to be in the top 25 by the year 2033. Okay, 25-33. But all this vision must be turned into action. Without that, nothing is going to happen. Last but not least, before I close, the most important thing I think as Malaysians, we must remember that while we say fighting corruption, we always look at MACC or we always ask what the government is doing, but we also must ask what we are doing. If there is any wrongdoing that we see, we should speak up. One of the problems in Malaysians is we don't speak up. So with that, I would like to end this and I would like to open for any Q&A.
Okay, that concludes the release of the Corruption Perceptions Index 2024. Now, as Dr. Mohan has mentioned, we'll have the question and answer session. The floor will be open to all present. There is a mic in the middle of the hall. Kindly introduce yourselves and your organization before asking the question. Thank you.
You can come forward, huh? No problem. Yes.
Hello, good afternoon, Dr. Mohan and Ram. I'm Fatan Changa from ABC Center of Excellence. So just now we saw that the two cases, Brisbane Offshore and also Hado Shop. So, in your opinion, what are the reasons that impede the progression of that court verdict on that? Because we also wants to know because it will be the precedent case for Section 17 Capital A. So, in your opinion, thank you.
Well, it's a difficult question for me, although I highlight that this is a problem. But for me to answer what's happening, actually, I don't know. To be honest with you, I do not know. But typically, when you charge a person, the investigation would have already been done. Okay, so they have all the evidence and so on. Okay, then the process must continue. We do not know why it's stagnant. So I only can tell you that because I'm not sure what is the reason. Where is the hiccup, or maybe because typically before they charge a person, the investigation papers are sent to the AG's chambers. They will look at it and they say, yeah, there is a good chance to convict this person, and then they will proceed. So I stops there. I think the best party to answer is probably the MACC or something like that. So I may not be able to give that answer, but I really don't know the answer. But the reason I highlighted this is because this is what our business community is talking about. When you talk about adequate procedure, we have two cases, we heard about the case, but why. So they are so confident that they won't be charged. That kind of attitude. Especially this one is a problem with SMEs. SMEs don't take it very serious. The bigger companies, no problem. You go and see they have macam-macam program. They do a lot of programs, training, all levels, because the directors in the board, they're very, very concerned. So the compliance officer have to, in every board meeting, they will be queried. Tapi yang syarikat-syarikat SME ni, yang kecil ni, where the owner is the director and he and his wife. But they are quite big. Some of them, when we're very small SME, turnover 100 million. So they're big. And these are the dangerous ones because they are the ones offering. Remember just now I said one of the possible factors of stagnation, I said businesses. I'm really focusing on these kind of companies. To receive, you need to have a giver. So that fellow may make it difficult, and then this side will be ready to offer. So it continues. And yet they will complain. But you ask them, they will tell you, what do you want me to do? I need the approval. I need to execute the project. But I don't have approval from the authorities. I cannot proceed. So nak buat macam mana? Dia minta, saya kena bagi lah. Then semua lancar. So this is where the problem. That's why Section 17A was specifically put for this. But I hope you understand. Huh? I only can give you that answer up to there. I do not know what exactly happened. Even we are curious. We hope to get some answers. If there is no case or what, then they should just drop the case. That's all. Okay. Thanks. Any other question?
Hello, sir. Haris from Malaysia. I want to ask, I think as you are aware, towards the end of last year, this Sabah corruption scandal surfaced. Does this CPI, does this case, affected this, has an effect because it's towards the end of the year? And do you think that the Sabah corruption scandal might affect this year's CPI? Especially given, there's no concrete action so far. Nobody has been arrested as well. And what do you think of the Sabah corruption scandal? Thank you.
Okay. Again, perception, isn't it? Huh? Okay. First part, you asked whether in our current year score, this has made an influence. Very likely no, because this happened at the tail end of the year. Okay. Normally, August, September, they consolidate all the data. So maybe it's not captured. But it could capture in 2025 because it's perception. Okay. So that is where we are now, and so on. But this one important point, because the issue here is whether the person is a whistleblower or not, not okay. But in our country, current law under the WPA, Whistleblower Protection Act, they can only report to the enforcement agencies. Hello, you report out of the enforcement agency, then you can't. Okay, so I don't want to speculate what is the reason why the person chose not to report, even though he had a chance. So technically, you cannot call him a whistleblower in our country's law, because you decided to expose it to the media and so on, and then that becomes a challenge at this point based on our law. Okay, so it might affect our next year's data. Okay, next question, please.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum. Thank you so much, Dr. Mohan. And congratulations to Transparency International Malaysia untuk organize dan make realize today's session also. Saya Nur Hayati, daripada Rasuah Busters. Doktor, saya nak tanya, any possible effort yang kita boleh buat to actually learn for best practices, for example, from Singapore, paling dekat, and Malaysia, I think this year is Chairman for Asian, right? So boleh tak kita jadikan ini satu agenda yang sepatutnya diangkat dalam mesyuarat ataupun program-program yang kita akan adakan bersama negara ASEAN. I think that could be the best opportunity. Which will be your response, sir? Thank you.
Okay. You said Singapore, and I would like to just stop there because although we are the chair of ASEAN, remember being a chair, country becoming a chair of the ASEAN, dia setahun saja. They go rotation. Okay. And very little we can do on this within that period. Okay. My personal view is when it comes to fighting corruption, I think for Malaysia, before we talk about other countries, because if you look other than Singapore and maybe Brunei, other countries are also behind, way behind us. So I think the benchmark for us, because we have to look after ourselves first, Malaysia. All right. We have to look after ourselves. So the only benchmark I can think of is Singapore. All right. Now, why is it Singapore can do it and we are not able to do it? Fundamental thing is efficiency. Because even in some of our surveys, by the way, later I'll talk about judiciary. I told you, I promised you I'll speak about judiciary. We talk about bureaucracy and government efficiency. In some of the surveys, this is a question. Even though TI actually picks up on the part of corruption, but the survey, the person who is responding, before he come to the corruption component, he have to answer other questions. Is it easy to do business? Score 1 to 6. Is government bureaucracy a challenge for you? Score 1 to 6. Is public sector efficiency a factor or score 1 to 6? So below you have application or anything that you do, for example, some cases I've given lots of examples before where you have already got a job, tender, you win the tender, now you want to execute the job. That's where the problems start. Because below you apply for all these agencies for approval, you get stuck there. So I think one of the things we can learn from Singapore is how are they able to get this speed, efficiency? Setting up a company within, let's say, 20 days or 10 days, you must do it. And it must be measured. We send an application to this thing, sometimes 3 bulan, no answer. Follow up, dalam kajian or some kind of this thing. Bulan keempat you pergi, masih lagi. Bulan kelima you pergi, file hilang. That opens the door for corruption. And I'm telling you all this, ini kisah benar. Orang bagi tahu kita, cuma dia, I don't know why they don't want to go and report. Their explanation is, kita pun cari makan, we also surviving, why should we report? So it's a perpetual issue. Jadi I think, in my opinion, even though we are chair of ASEAN, I think the focus should be more how we can improve ourselves. And the best reference is Singapore. Hopefully with the Johor, economic zone and, the cooperation between Johor state and this thing, hopefully that will spill over. So I think we have the best in Singapore. How is it that they can be very efficient? Okay. Any other questions?
Can I get your last slide? Very last.
About the vision or Prime Minister's vision.
Yeah.
Can you move on that side for the other skills? Yes.
That's the figure is 2033, right? Not 25.
Now, what I mean here, top 25.
23.
Top 25.
Okay, that's what you mean.
The reason why, I mean, look, this is not a national this thing, PI and whatnot. The reason is when we do this vision, this thing, when number orang kena faham. 2025, I must, by 2033, I must talk. Okay, so that's what, I mean, this is just be creative. So please don't take it as Prime Minister say, tomorrow it becomes someone working out number.
My name is Paula Singh. I'm a member of PI. I was in the EXCO for a long time. That was in 2013. When Paul Leon was president. Okay, my question is that now we have a vision, and we haven't given a vision. I love it. That we have a vision within 8 years. We will achieve within the 25. We will achieve placing of within the 25. But no, you don't look, you don't just go there, right? You have to go gradually, step by step, step by step. Let me see the figures. Next year, 2027, 2028, 2. That's how we move. We move by step, but we don't jump from now 50 to 25. I think that is a major task. Okay, so in Malaysia, we are so fond of coming up with these statements that will please the IR. Oh, we're going to we're going to combat corruption, and we're going to be the top 25 by 2030, 2033 lah. And but the action is not there.
Dr. Paul, can you come to the question? What is the question you're saying?
No, the question, I'm just giving some comments that while you are saying this, you are saying that.
Okay.
There's nothing from the government to say that support PI and support what you're saying. Example, even coming here, if
If the Prime Minister and the KSN, you praise the KSN for saying that, he is committed to eradicating poverty. He will send one officer here and say, yeah, I want to listen to TI and give me a feedback. From there.
No, there are people from BPGN who is under MACC who works very closely with the thing. They are already here.
MACC, yes, but I'm within the Prime Minister's department and within the KSN department. So they are the fresh ones who have come up with this. So what I'm just saying, we are talking. But now we don't see any action that, hey, they are interested, they want to know what is the problem. So at least from there you take on, So basically it is, I think the problem with us is that the execution is very important. Okay, you can say all the policy guidelines, you can say this policy, this. You don't seem to be taking even small steps to reach that goal. Okay. So that's it.
Okay.
So let's not get too excited, which I think TIM is falling into that trap. When they make a commitment, this, oh, very nice, very good. No, you have actually asked the government again. If you are serious, tell me your time plan, tell me your timetable, tell me, give me more information. Then I will believe what you say. But if you just give one, I'm going to forget and
Okay,
to me,
thanks.
meaningless.
Okay, thank you, Paula.
Testing 1, 2. Hi, Dr. Pushpan from Civil Center. Now, a tricky question in the sense that we have a major nexus between politicians, VIPs, with the business communities. And you can see a lot of issues in terms of land grabs, abuse of land titles, abuse of land giving out. So in that context, how does that actually impact a view on CPI? That's one. Now, with that nexus of political play, politicians, VIPs involved in land, and you also have now SEZ coming up in Johor, where there is potentially an abuse of how this money flow can come in. Wouldn't that also lead us to consider that factor when it comes to fighting corruption in the biggest? Because CPI addresses certain aspects of corruption, but doesn't handle our grand corruption issues. Perhaps you can comment on those initiatives that we can put forward to actually look at both and not just petty corruption, but the bigger picture of grand corruption. Thank you.
Yes, you see, the CPI is actually a perception index, as I mentioned. And true that not everything can be captured because this is a perception. Who are the respondents? Mostly are the business people. All right. So certain things like land grab and all this, when it comes in the news, like just now, the question came up about the Sabah video scandal. Now that became a very big story. And then public is waiting why no action has been taken. Although the Chief Commissioner of MACC has already given a statement on that action has been taken, papers are given, and he will be updating, I think, the public on this thing. So I think only when it becomes a story, then it is being captured sometimes. So I must say that the CPI is not a indicator of covering everything, grand and petty corruption and so on. There could be some, it will be captured and so on. Now, to give you an example, why when the former Prime Minister, he was charged and the case, proceeded in the SRC case. Why that particular year in 2019, you see a rebound? So that is an immediate impact. The big stories that has a big impact, that the respondents feel that, yeah, there is something happening in this country moving forward and so on. But when you have, like I said, when you have a DNA, a series of DNA, especially on high profile cases, then of course it's a dampening effect, immediately it will come down. So only when you have a big story, then it can be captured, like in the case of land grab and so on. Otherwise, sometimes it's not there. So as I said here, as just now some of you have asked, it is not an easy task to get this top 25, but something has to be done. Somebody has to do something about it. So that is why I say that a task force has been formed. Groups are inside there. There's focus group inside there. All the government agencies are. But I must say, it is not easy. To get a buy-in from the civil servants is also a challenge. Because for so many years, they have been set in their mind that this is perception. Reality is something else. Even until today, some of them will argue, I've done a lot of things. Who says we are not doing anything? But they don't see it. Okay? So, but this remains a challenge. But that is something that we have to work through. It will take time, but I think that's the direction we should go. Okay, Pushpan. Any other questions? Yes, sir.
You keep saying it takes time, it takes time. How confident are you that we are able to reach? What are the chances, probabilities of achieving that?
Well, I'm not in a position to give guarantee that I don't run the government. Okay, right? But all I can tell you is the dream given, but we have to work towards it. What TI is trying to do, what we are trying to do is to tell the government that you see the tagline at the bottom. What did I say? All these dreams must be translated into action. If you don't get into action, then you're not going to see anything. I gave you a series of reforms that they did not carry out. How do you expect the score to go up? So if you ask me, are you confident or not? I cannot say anything. Only time will tell over the period. But I think in the fifth year or fourth year, if you're still in the 15, then you know the answer. It's not easy, to get there, but you have to work for it. Everybody got to work for it. So in closing, I would just say, if there are no other questions, I think in closing, I just gave this example in 1963. I used to talk about this in the focus group. President Kennedy said that by end of this decade, America will put a man on the moon and return him back safely to Earth. He was assassinated in 63. He was gone. He was not even there. In 69, America did go to the moon, came back safely. So what I'm trying to say is leaders give that vision. And of course, they must provide enablers, facilitate. That's why this focus group has been formed, task force has been formed, and to do this. If you don't do anything, then we can talk the same thing every year. You all know very well. Last 6 years, I've been sitting here and talking about it. It did improve. It just goes up, come down, goes up, come down. And, sort of, you are able to predict the next 5 years already. So by at least they have put in some effort. Of course, they don't work predict those things and so on. So how confident am I? I can't promise you. I don't run the government. Okay? I only can help whatever help they need. Okay? So that's all I can. Okay. Are there any other questions? If not, we.
Online question.
Oh, you have online questions? 2. Okay, can you read them quickly? Or you come here. There is a mic.
Hello, okay, I will be reading questions from online. There are a total of 2 questions. So the first one is from Mr. Bala Krishnan. Other countries in ASEAN, do they have provision or protection for whistleblower? And we may not have. Is it? Okay, that's the first question. The second question is from Sue Menon. Should anti-corruption be made a topic or subject as part of the school education curriculum to teach from young? Okay, that's the 2 questions.
Okay, and first part of the question, is there a whistleblower act in other countries, ASEAN countries? To my knowledge, Malaysia has a standalone act, but in other ASEAN countries, like in Thailand and so on, it come under their anti-corruption act. There is a provision there. There is a provision inside there where it's a guideline how to report. But I don't know of any other ASEAN country that have a standalone act, but we have. Okay, that's number 1. Number 2 is, the question is, should it be taught at the young age at the curriculum. In fact, if you look at the NACS, under the Kementerian Pendidikan Malaysia's sub-strategy in the NACS, there is a provision for them to include that in their syllabus. At the university level, they are already subject compulsory. Now the government has made it compulsory. The last time it was an elective paper, but now it's compulsory. I think in the first semester they got, or second semester they have to sit for this paper. But at the school level, it's part of, it's work in progress. Okay. All right, if there are no other questions, I would like to thank all of you for taking your time on a holiday to come and find out what is the results for the CPI. And once again, I want to thank everybody for making time. Thank you very much. Assalamualaikum.
Yes, that's.
Ladies and gentlemen, that concludes the release of the groceries perception.